Good morning, everyone. We are now live. I just had a sort of insight the other day while watching, amazingly enough, a show called Meteor Garden. It's another one of those shows from mainland China that are now showing on Netflix. I'm going to see if I can share this on Twitter. Well, maybe not quite right now, so I'll share it later. Okay, by the way, if you have not read Our Lady of Kaifeng, it has some really great insights toward the end with regard to forgiving and not forgiving. So, a lot of people persist despite my my video about forgiveness. They persist in saying that you should forgive other people who hurt you for your own sake, so that you'll feel better. And it doesn't really matter how they feel. But I think you really do feel excellent after you forgive a vanquished foe. And that's the kind of forgiveness that all of us aspire to. In other words, somebody did something wrong. We correct them, but we're not petty about it. And we later forgive them and they become our friend again. So this was actually depicted in Meteor Garden, which is a show for teenagers on Netflix, which comes from China. I'm going to get something to drink and I'll keep talking. So on Meteor Garden, it's not as good a show as A Love So Beautiful, but it has the same actress starring in it. Meteor Garden is obviously taken from a manga, from a comic book, and it kind of has that comic book feel to it. It's not as realistic as A Love So Beautiful, and it's also not as sweet or innocent. But anyway, what the event that I want to talk about that happened in one of the episodes was not about love. It was about forgiveness of a friend who betrayed the protagonist. So Dong ShenCai is the protagonist, and she's a sweet young girl from a family that owns a restaurant, or a food stand. She's not rich, and she's only 5'2", but she's very spirited. And she will not give in to bullying, and she stands up to some rich people and some bullies. And as a result, she sort of wins a name for herself. And the chief rich boy in the boy group called F4 takes an interest in her because of this. Anyway, her friend, Li Zhen, comes from a very similar family background, and so in some ways, they're completely equal. Neither of them thinks that she is all that beautiful. Of course, they both are, but, and neither of them thinks that she is all that bright or has any special, claim to success. But somehow, Dong ShenCai gets the attention of everyone, and Li Zhen does not. And at one point, Dong ShenCai invites Li Zhen to come with her to a rich people party, but the invitation was not to the friend Li Zhen. And so when the friend arrives at the party, they don't let her in. And she's very hurt, and she tries to reach Dong ShenCai. And unfortunately, the cell phone is dead. So she doesn't return. So Li Zhen is standing in the rain, and she gets her really expensive dress all wet. And so by the time Dong ShenCai reaches her using a friend's cell phone, she says something came up and she can't come to the party, but she holds a grudge. She's resentful of her more successful friend Dong ShenCai, and a couple of other things of that sort happen. And eventually she betrays her friend by posting some pictures that allege that her friend was having an affair with a foreigner, which did not actually happen. I'm not going to get into all of the details of that. That's not really important. But the thing that happens is, as soon as they learn that it was Li Zhen who posted the derogatory information about Dong ShenCai that was intended to lower her reputation, everyone from the F4 group accompanied Dong ShenCai to the home of Li Zhen. She was confronted, and in this confrontation, Li Zhen didn't exactly say she was sorry, but she looked sorry. She explained her reasons, and she explained that she had pride too, and that's why she didn't tell Dong ShenCai how hurt she was about the incident with not being allowed into the party. But everyone knows that it was Li Zhen's fault. And by the time Dong ShenCai makes a public forgiveness speech on behalf of Li Zhen, everybody in the school knows that Dong ShenCai has been vindicated and that it was Li Zhen's fault that that picture was posted. So in other words, when the heartfelt speech is made by Dong ShenCai forgiving her friend and saying she still wants to be friends with her, this is seen as an act of extreme generosity on the part of Dong ShenCai, because there is no question that she gives this forgiveness to her friend as a gift after she was in a position of power, of strength. She is above Li Zhen, and she forgives her anyway, and they become friends again. But it's really clear that this is generosity on the part of Dong ShenCai, that she doesn't need Li Zhen, that Li Zhen needs her friendship more. And so when she forgives her, that's a very kind and good thing to do. And we all feel that this shows how special Dong ShenCai is, that she's really a very good person. Okay, so we see this, and a lot of people aspire to that kind of moment of unilateral forgiveness of those who have been cruel to them. They think that that will show them to be above the tormentors, okay? But the problem with that is, in most cases, when somebody is hurting you, other people do not stand up for you, and other people do not know. It's not publicly known exactly what happened and who was right and who was wrong. So this comic book depiction of what forgiveness is like and how great it feels to be the party who was wronged and who forgives is completely not the same as, let's say, forgiving the IRS. You know, you understand what I'm saying. You can say, well, the IRS has no right to tax me, but I will pay them and I will forgive them. No, you're not forgiving them. You're surrendering to them. That's not the same thing. And when the bully has his foot on your neck and you forgive him because you don't know how to get up and nobody's helping and your friends are not helping you, that is not noble. That's ignoble. And there is a difference. What's wonderful about, the depiction in Meteor Garden, the thing that sets up the forgiveness is that she has friends who go with her, who stand with her, who help her. And there is a very clear idea of what's right and what's wrong. Most of the time, though, when we have a disagreement with a friend or a family member, this is not what happens. I'll tell you what happens. Everybody will go up to the person wronged privately and say, I think you're right. But publicly, they don't stand with the person wronged. And therefore, forgiveness is not possible because the person who did the wronging is still on good terms with everybody else. And so they don't need the friendship of the person they wronged. And they can go on deluding themselves that they didn't wrong that person. In Our Lady of Kaifeng, Mara Fallowfield gets herself into a lot of trouble to the point where she is crucified. Now, does she forgive Commandant Izu? No, she doesn't. But the thing that really hurts her the most is the fact that everybody stood and watched and they didn't say or do anything to protect her. So she's not really mad at Commandant Izu. Not really. I mean, she doesn't forgive him because there would be no nobility in forgiving him at this point. There's nothing noble about forgiving someone who did something wrong and isn't, wasn't ever called on it. There just isn't. Because the whole point of forgiveness, there's a social reason for it. It's so that we can go on and we can take back the people who have gone astray. But those people can't be taken back until we know they're not going to do that ever again. If you take them back because you need them more than they need you, then that's not forgiveness. That is surrender to evil. So the next time one of your friends is wronged, if you stand beside them, they might be able to forgive. But if you say, well, that's between you two, and I'm going to be friends with both sides, that might be a problem. I have to go now because Bo is calling me. But think about that. Think about what made the forgiveness scene in Meteor Garden so effective. And ask yourself, are you helping your friends to be able to forgive their enemies by helping them to vanquish the enemy? If not, you might be part of the problem.